allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd like to add an item to the agenda.
Okay.
Item 10I, student expulsion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Next, I need an approval of the minutes of December 14th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So moved. Public communications. Communications from our student reps.
Good evening, board and all those in attendance. I hope you all had a great holiday season. So starting off with the school report, on Wednesday, the seniors met in the auditorium where SHS alumni from the class 2023 held a presentation about their lives after graduation and how they manage certain issues in college. It was interesting to hear all of their different perspectives from different schools, and also it was interesting to hear the differences between high school and college life. Midterms will be from January 18th to the 23rd, and we wish all of our students the best of luck on their exams. Teachers and students are navigating these challenging last few weeks of the semester by finishing up their coursework and beginning to prepare for the exams shortly. It's a very stressful time, but students are excited to begin the second semester, and especially the seniors. The course fair took place yesterday, and it was a super cool experience for the 8th graders to experience the vast course offerings at our high school. Many of our current students also helped out by helping upcoming students out with advice and even speaking to the students about the different classes and departments. And lastly, the robotics season kicked off last Saturday on the 6th. It was amazing to see all the parents, students, and mentors, and even some of the board members at kickoff to celebrate the new season. The robotics team quickly got to work, even in the snowstorm, and have around 60 days left until their first competition. We wish them the best of luck, and I'm going to pass it on to the sports report.
Good evening, board. This is our sports report. The SHS wrestling team finished in third place at its annual Southland Duels 12-team tournament last Saturday, falling to Ridgefield in the semifinal match. The team currently has a 2-1 dual meet record heading into a home match next Wednesday versus Hall. The Blue Knights defending Class L state champion girls gymnastic team got off to a strong start, winning its home and season opener over South Windsor last Saturday afternoon. The SHS boys swimming and diving team won its home opener versus Newington yesterday afternoon. The Blue Knights boys basketball team is off to a strong 7-1 start as it approached the midway point of the basketball regular season. The girls basketball team is looking to improve its season record to 6-5 tonight, hosting Hall High School. The SHS Unified Sports team plays at halftime of tonight's girls game. The SHS Winter Cheerleading program will host the CCC Cheerleading Championship at Southington High School on Saturday, February 17 at 4 p.m. And I'm going to pass it on to District Report.
Good evening, everyone. At JFK, 8th graders are gearing up for their transition to high school by participating in activities both on site at JFK and at the high school in preparation for next year. We appreciate the collaborative effort to ease this transition. Our 6th graders are preparing for the annual Geography Bee in their social studies classes. Soon, the top finalists will compete in a school-wide competition. Our winter sports season has begun. Please stop by to watch the girls and boys basketball teams compete. Congratulations to Lila Gilbert, this year's recipient of the Martin Luther King Jr. Award, sponsored by First Baptist Church of Southington. This award gives us to a student who possesses maturity for his or her age, as has an awareness of the world, a knowledge of civics, and a spirit dedicated to liberty and justice for all. Lila was nominated by her teachers for the following reasons. Lila is a natural-born leader. She asks great questions, brings great contributions to class discussions, and loves to compete in our class debates. She keeps her classmates on task, delegates responsibly to her peers, and encourages them every step of the way. Additionally, Lila will drop everything to help everyone and anyone in need, and she goes out of her way to find ways to help others outside the school. Lila volunteers to help people in her learning community. Lila will be recognized at a ceremony at First Baptist Church on Sunday, January 21st. The JFK community is proud of Lila and can't wait to see what Lila accomplishes in the upcoming years. Congratulations to social studies teacher Amy Perry on her recent grant award of $1,000 from the Southington Education Foundation for her project, Diving into History Wig First. This sustainable project will fund costumes and wigs, allowing students to immerse themselves into lessons and reenact monumental moments in American history to gain a better understanding of the relevance and importance of historical events. Over at South End, rehearsals have recently started for South End's 19th drama club production, The Little Mermaid. Over 30 fourth and fifth graders are participating this year. Our third graders making up the chorus and will start rehearsing this February. Three shows will be performed in late April, usually to sold-out audiences. Over at DePaulo, the DePaulo and Kennedy Middle School Drama Club has begun rehearsals for this year's musical, Sister Act. There are over 90 students in the cast from both schools, and performances will be staged at the end of March and beginning of April. DePaulo basketball team are up to a great start. They play crosstown rivals Kennedy tomorrow. DePaulo is preparing now for the annual Taste of Culture event, which will be held February 8th. This gives all DePaulo families an opportunity to showcase their heritage with our school community. That's it for our report. Let us know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I do have one. The South End School, it's 19 years?
19th, yeah.
Okay. And Ms. Stearns, who is now the principal, is the teacher who started it. So I think that's just, yeah, wonderful. Okay, thank you, students. Communications from the Board of Education. Hearing no one, I guess I get to talk again. Team 195. I was there Saturday morning to see the kickoff, and it never fails to amaze me. This is the second year that I've been there, to see the excitement when the game is announced. And I honestly, and I'll be the first one to admit, my children were not involved with 195, but to see students, a whole group of students, leaning forward, listening, watching, taking pictures, getting so excited. It was the best. It's just a wonderful, wonderful kickoff. Mr. Medancy, I'm sure you'd agree, to see the enthusiasm and the excitement. And I was talking to a few students before the kickoff, and I said, "Oh, it's supposed to snow Saturday. You have plans to go home?" Oh no, we want to sleep over." And I said, "No, you can't sleep. You have to go." "Oh no, I'm going to go grab a sleeping bag." They were so excited to start the game. So it's just wonderful to see that, to hear it, and I'm looking forward to a really, really great season by Team 195. So, did you want to say something, Mr.? No, okay. And also, I attended my second STEPS meeting and realized I have a lot to learn. I was there at the very beginning of STEPS. I have a lot to learn, and they're doing so much exciting work. And I unfortunately left my notes at home regarding STEPS, but there is enthusiasm there as well to help within the community and to grow the STEPS program within our community. So next meeting, I will have more information with me. Okay. Next in line, communication from the administration. Mr. Medancy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick update tonight, because I want to give some of my time, if it's okay to you, with some of our students, have a short presentation on, if you remember, you asked when they go to Italy, instead of permission, come and present to us on what your trip was like.
Absolutely.
So a short presentation this evening from a few students that are going to give you some highlights of their trip to Italy as part of our administrative report. But I have 4 quick items. The K screening updates are set to begin. Our first session will be this Saturday at the Calendar House from 9 to 3. The teachers have been trained. Mr. Pepe and I will be present, along with a few of the elementary administrators each for the Saturdays. I will have an update for the board in February, what it looks like in terms of the amount of waivers that were granted and what the size of the cohort for the incoming kindergarten class could look like as a result of that. along with some contingency plans for those that are not granted the waiver. Some plans that we're pretty excited about. In addition to that, we do, just putting it on the board's radar, the state moved up the presidential primary elections to the first week in April. So I'm in conversations right now with the town manager about what buildings will be used for the primary and what our plans are relative to the operations of those buildings, because April 2nd is a day when school is in session. We have had presidential primaries in the past when school is in session, so I do remember some of the protocols relative to the designated entrance, securing a portion of the building so that there was no access to, that kind of thing. And so I will be following up with the community with further details on that relative to the operations of the district and the primary. In addition, it's that time of year. I think a few of you that I can scan at the dais, well, maybe only one, has jumped into Sloper Pond with me so far. So anybody who wants to jump, I mean, it would be a nice thank you for being recently reelected.
I can't, but I would like to volunteer.
You're with Mr.
Cecil,
Pepe?
if he's a new member to the board.
And Colleen.
I think there's
How many
definitely
members?
some people here that are probably chomping at the bit to do it, and we can recruit them.
My donation will be sent in.
I had asked years ago, I asked my doctor, could I do that? Because.
said no.
And
Yeah, but
he
if,
said-
I
I
can
asked
the
if I
kids
could-
right now, if you watch social media, cold plunges are all the rage, right? The ice baths, right? The health benefits far outweigh. So just think about it, do some research. You may find
Can
that
I
it
wear a
relieves your
wetsuit?
stress, helps with inflammation, all sorts of
Wetsuit,
advantages.
can I wear a wetsuit? That's all I need to know.
So it's on February 24th at 1 p.m. I will be jumping again.
Okay.
And I will also tell you, as someone who's done it many times now, anticipation of the event is far worse than the event itself. So please consider. We also, lastly, this is just the biennial year, so I want to put it on the board's radar. It is the annual STEPS survey that is administered. It's often a topic of conversation in the community when that time rolls around. We will notify families ahead of time, as we always do. One change we're making this year from the last administration is the survey is available online for families to view, so they don't have to go to school to view a copy of it in advance. That some families expressed that was an inconvenience. And as always, with all surveys, families have the opportunity to opt out if they choose to do so. And then lastly, the time of the night I was excited for, the Italy trip presentation. So those of you presenting tonight, we have Mrs. Poon is here to queue up the technology for you and to give you the floor. Speak into the mic for us, and then once we get the tech queued up, you'll be good to go. It shut down?
It was on literally in like half
Is
an hour
battery
ago.
dead, or did it just go to
No,
sleep?
it's just went to sleep.
We'll give you a minute. It'll reboot.
Can you wake it up? We're waking it up.
Ms. Carmody, would you like to go help?
Jessica, do you need my help?
Absolutely, please.
Then I'll come help you.
Don't touch it.
Mrs. Carmody, it's because we love you.
No,
that
well,
we-
you never know.
Yeah,
Mr. Barr.
that's
You
true.
might
It's
need
because we
help.
love you. That's why we say these things.
That's Italy? Oh, that's
Oh,
nighttime.
it did like a full reboot. That's nice.
Very close, very close.
All right.
Yay.
Hi. I'm Francesca.
I'm Ian. My name is Josh.
We're some of the students that went on the Italy trip. So we went November 5th through the 12th. It was just a week, 30 students and 4 chaperones. We stayed the majority of the time in Mondavia, which is like a small town, and we were in Rome for like a day. We visited Fano, the Grotto di Frasati, the Rocca. It's like a medieval castle like in Mondavio. And then Gubbio and San Marino were also towns, or San Marino is like
and Gubbio are other cities in Italy. So every day when we were in Mondavio, we went to class, and then we would have like a 30-minute break where we would go and like explore the town and get coffee from like the local coffee shops. And it gave us like a chance to learn our language skills and interact with the town people. Nobody there really speaks English, so you really had to like use what you knew. And yeah, the classes were spent just like practicing the language, playing games, and just like building like connections with the people in the town. It's just a list of our activities, the places that we went, and then also we spent a night making pizza with a local family, sightseeing in Rome and shopping. 2 nights we went to the local gymnasium and we played volleyball and did archery, as well as other activities while we were exploring the towns.
So you can see up here some photos that we had from the trip. The far left was on the castle in the town that we stayed in. The second from the left is the Grottos di Frattassi, which was the underground caves that we explored. You can see the photo of us playing archery in the gymnasium in town, and then the group photo of all of us outside.
So we stayed with host families while we were in Mondavio. So it was quite an immersive cultural experience. So we learned about their daily routines and how they're different from ours. We had their food, we had their breakfast and their dinners. We learned about the relationships in the family, their homes. We were constantly speaking Italian. I know my host family, only one of them spoke a little bit of English, so it was different having to speak Italian all the time. And in the homes and in the cities, lots of people made friends with the people that were there, so it was just interesting to see.
So the impact on our language abilities, it was a significant increase in our ability to communicate in Italian. As Frenchie and Ian mentioned, we were speaking in Italian a majority of the time on the trip, especially with our host families. So being able to communicate with our families and describe the things that we were doing, what we would like, or even the small talk that we would make with them, it improved our speaking abilities to communicate in Italian a great deal. And then, of course, the accents, like we learning Italian have like our American accent. However, in Italy, their accents are very thick. So it's like the dialect of Italian is much stronger, and you have to learn how to understand what they're trying to tell you. And then even while speaking there for a week, you start to develop that accent yourself to communicate with the people there. Is there any questions about our trip?
Absolutely. So it sounds wonderful. I'm jealous that you guys got to go to Italy. That's super, super cool. So how was the cultural differences as opposed to here? You always hear they're more laid back as opposed to, America. One question. And then second question, how was the coffee? In Italian, please.
Well, I didn't drink any of the coffee when I was there, unfortunately, but I'm sure Frenchie can tell you about that. But what was your other question? The culture, of course. So it was a lot of the little things that we noticed that when we were there. It's a lot different from here. Whether the things to like the sizes of cars, for example, they're very much small, compact cars. You walk almost a majority of the places you go, especially in the large cities. It's less driving, a lot of walking. Which is nice. It's a good change, especially in the time of year that we were there. It was nice to be outside. Another big difference was just the difference of buildings. In Italy, the buildings were built into structures that were already there because it's very historic. Whereas here, the buildings are built to accommodate for places to go in. So the difference was you'll see a small pizza shop like wedged into a stairwell or something like that. It was very out of the ordinary, but it was very interesting, and it was awesome to learn about all that.
Very cool. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
How was the pasta?
It was very good.
Very good. It looked delicious
Yeah.
in that picture.
The first night we were there, me and Chelsea were roommates with our friend Bella, and the pasta, our host dad made like this amazing risotto, and it was just like like I still think about it.
It looked it.
Yeah.
Looked it.
So I'm assuming there was no dunk in there? No, no. So what was the biggest takeaway each of you took from this trip? What did you gain from it? What did you take away from it?
I don't know. I guess the whole experience was like one specific thing. I don't know. I don't know the impact on my ability to speak Italian. I feel like that was pretty big. I don't know. I don't think I would do as well, before I went than I can do now.
Good.
For me, I think it was just the ability to go on the trip itself. Like the experience that I got was just something I won't ever get to experience again. Whether staying with a host family and just learning the culture of Italy was it was a once in a lifetime experience. It was amazing.
Wonderful.
I really liked meeting all of the people in the town. Our school that we went to was right next to an elementary school, so like during one of the breaks, like Ian and some of the guys were playing soccer and like playing with all the little kids, and like we've never met them. We like barely spoke the language, but you used what you knew to, or not barely spoke the language, but you used what you knew to like communicate with them and play with the kids, and it was just a lot of fun.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What a great
Sean.
opportunity, kids.
Yeah, one more question. Would you do it again? And one recommendation to improve or change the trip for students coming after you?
I'd say absolutely I would do it again. It was just an amazing experience, so I would, in a heartbeat, I would do it again. An improvement I would do is either to be there longer to see more, or see other parts of Italy. I mean, it was just there was a lot to see, and we saw a lot, but just the amount of history that's there in Italy, it's hard to see it all in 1 week.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I think that'd be my recommendation.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else? No? Okay.
Just add more time, add more time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming back and sharing that with us.
Thank you very much. That concludes my administrative report this evening.
On an up note, I must say. All right. Next on the agenda, committee reports. Oh, I'm sorry, communications from the public on agenda items only. If you are here to speak on an agenda item, you can come up to the podium and please sign in. There's a sign-in sheet there if anyone is interested, but only on agenda items. Everybody good? Okay. Moving along then. Committee reports, curriculum and instruction from December 15th.
All right.
Wrong way. I'm looking the wrong way.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Curriculum and Instruction Committee met on December 15th. We went over 4 pieces of curriculum. Number 1 was an elective course titled Human Rights for grades 10 through 12. The goal of the human rights education was to bring about cooperation and to advance human rights, justice, and dignity for all. Some of the key highlights of the course, they talked about what is human rights organizations, the Holocaust and genocide, as well as civic engagement. The second course we went over was an industry internship proposal for a DECA store shift manager. Students in this would begin with an internship and training, and then from there they would go on to support business operations associated with running a retail store. It's a pretty awesome experience. The third piece we went over was Color Guard course proposal. Color Guard currently, as everybody knows or may know, currently it's an extracurricular activity only. This would align Color Guard with marching band. For anybody who was in marching band, I was one of those, and obviously the Color Guard is an integral part of the marching band's performances and their act and everything. So it's a great opportunity there. And then the last piece was for the School of Rock proposal. Go Jack Black.
Tell them about Mrs. Clark playing the ukulele.
Lest you give away everything, Mrs. Carmody.
Go ahead.
So this course builds upon skills that were learned in other music courses. It advances on music theory, and it also goes into the business side of music with event planning, staging, publicity, and merchandising. So I thought it was great that in this one, when there was a couple of proposals that kind of went into the business realm of things. So good meeting.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I'm not making fun of you.
What a surprise.
First of all, the wonderful things that are, well, you were there, Colleen, so you know, the wonderful things that our teachers are doing and the course offerings that we are proposing, it would be really wonderful if we could have the staff to have these courses. The human rights and dignity and justice, I mean, how important is that in our world today? Just so very important. And the business course, these kids in business, we found out, you know, they're working in the store, and they're learning how they could actually conduct a business, okay? One of the students is using it for his competition type thing, which is really neat. And the color guard, to expand that, because they have the scheduling now, the block scheduling, and the kids, and just wonderful stuff that's going on at Southington High School. And I am so proud when the teachers come to us and present all of this material. Let us hope that there is some way that we can offer these courses to the kids, because it makes us an extremely comprehensive high school. But the School of Rock, they are introducing new instruments, right, Jasper?
Yep.
And did we talk about the ukulele? Did you want to, I mean, I don't know, do you want to mention who might try to?
I think Colleen volunteered.
She did,
I
thanks.
did. I
Just
did.
so that everybody knows, Colleen.
Okay, I volunteer. I
I just
volunteer.
want to mention it, that's all.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Thank you, Jasper. Okay. Next on the agenda is the District-Wide Facilities Committee. I'm going to turn that over to you, Mr.
Thank you.
Bedancy.
I can envision Mrs. Clark at a celebration of excellence playing something on the ukulele. I look
Okay,
forward to that.
just for further clarification, I do have musical instruments in my home that I did play at one time or another, just to clarify.
Okay, thank
Just
you.
to clarify, just to
For
clarify.
clarifying that, thank you.
I played the guitar.
So our district-wide facilities committee met on December 18th, and it was a very good conversation. I think in many ways it's a bit of a reset for us. It was after elections, so we have a few different members on there so we wanted to kind of catch up to speed, if you will, on past district-wide facilities committee work. Overall, one of the things we did was, again, presenting slides that summarized some of the recent facility studies work and relative to the elementary schools and enrollment. But then we went into a larger conversation, and SLAM gave us an overview of a master facilities plan process, kind of what that entails, what the timelines would be, what information would be needed. And we reached consensus as a group that that was very important for us right now, because I think a lot of people tend to focus on the three elementary facilities projects, and that's certainly, you know, at the forefront, I think, in terms of the size of upcoming projects that we have. But the Karen Smith Academy needs to be part of that conversation. The roofs at a few of the schools that are at the end of their expected lifespan, the HVAC requirements coming down the pipeline in terms of schools, the elementary schools specifically, that will not be renovated, that don't have air conditioning. And so we talked about, like, what, if we did an analysis of the debt service, what projects make the most sense and in what order to try and flatten, you know, we know there's going to be a debt service associated with the projects, but so that there's not a giant spike, if you will, and then a drop off, you know, and spacing them out accordingly so that we can minimize the impact to the taxpayer relative to the debt service. That was a great conversation. Right after we decided, you know, that yes, it was online, but I think we all agree we need a larger block of time in person to really start to hammer out the work and get it memorialized. And we also realized the importance of everybody that's part of the district-wide facilities committee going back to their elected boards that they're representing as members of the committee and sharing that out with their members, so that when we start to introduce projects, whether it's through public hearings or requests for bonding, that it's not a surprise to folks on those boards, that they're part of the conversation, and also that the conversation continues to happen publicly, whether it's at a Board of Ed meeting, a Board of Finance, Planning and Zoning, or Town Council level. So everybody was in agreement that that's a real good way to get information out to the public in a consistent fashion. So overall, the meeting went very well, and I am in the process right now of gathering follow-up information that was requested by SLAM in order to set the agenda for an upcoming meeting. I think where we're at right now, the next meeting may still be virtual just to provide some answers to questions and information that was requested, with the meeting thereafter being kind of a deep dive and a large chunk of time in person to start to memorialize some actual plans. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Next up, the Finance Committee meeting of January 5th. Mr. Carson.
All right, the Finance Committee meeting met on the evening of January 4th. I believe this is the last committee report for the evening, and ours was jam-packed. I'm going to try and streamline it the best I can and just hit some highlight areas. First and foremost, we discussed an award of an RFP, request for proposal, regarding the design and construction administration of the track at the high school, which is associated with the award of a STEEP grant through the state, which I will have a motion on at the end of my report. We also discussed an FY24 financial update to this point in the fiscal year. One of the highlights there was discussing special education grant revenue reimbursement, which we currently have calculated at a 73% reimbursement rate, and actually that's expected to be reimbursed at a higher rate, but being conservative, that's what we're using currently. So that was good to hear. Moving on, food service financial review, which we had a robust discussion about going into the numbers of meals served year over year, and how last year, when the state provided funding for free meals, obviously we saw an increase in the amount of meals that our food service area was serving. This year it's down, I believe, to the tune of just over 50,000 meals year over year from the beginning of the year through the first week of December. And so we had a discussion relating to that, and we have a new food service director, and so sort of getting a picture of where we are, what we're doing, and where we're going. And just of note, in regards to that, we actually have an on-site review with the state of Connecticut at the end of March. So that will really give us, something to prepare for, and then basically give us a report card on how we're doing as a district. The next item during the committee was postage meter lease renewal. We have two pieces of equipment, one at the high school, one here at the municipal center, to send out our mailings. And the U.S. Postal Service is actually going to a new standard. Let me bring that up real quick. The postage formatting is going from an IBI to an IMI compliance standard, and thus we must upgrade our mailing machines, and that I also have a motion for at the end of the committee report. Ms. Mella, am I missing anything in my report?
think you're good. We did share some information about the self-insurance committee, that the water department has left the town self-insurance fund. And at our most recent meeting, they have set our self-insurance budget for the new year at an amount that would be an 8% increase over where we are in the current year. And that's our what's going to be worked into our budget that you'll see next week.
Any questions? All right, so you have some motions, Mr. Carson, you'd like to make?
Yes, I do. I'll start with the athletic track. Move to award RFP 2024-10 to SLR International Corporation in the amount of $29,500 for the administration services related to Phase 1 and 2 of the design and construction of the athletic track at Southington High School.
Second?
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And second motion relating to the postage meters, move to approve a new lease with Pitney Bowes for mailing machines at both the municipal center and high school for a 60-month term in the amount of $1,741.17 per fiscal quarter.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Carson.
You're welcome.
Okay. Moving right along, Superintendent's Personnel Report.
Recommend that the Board of Education approve the personnel report as submitted by the Human Resource Department.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Next on to Old Business, Town Government Communications. Okay. No? Okey doke. All right, we have second reading of the calendar. Mr. Medancy. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We received quite a bit of feedback on the school calendar this year from members of the community and staff. The one area that was resounding in terms of a suggestion was the request to move our April vacation from the second week in April to the third week in April. Some of the rationale behind that was that the third week in April encompasses Good Friday, so it would end up being 4 days out of the school year versus 5. Another recommendation was that aligns extensively with what surrounding towns are doing next year. So both parents who are teachers in other districts, it helps them to have the same vacation as their children, but a lot of families in general just requested that change be considered. And so that, as you will see on tonight's draft, is reflected. The only other change that I would offer up for consideration this evening is if you look at the draft, February 19th is listed as a PD day, which would mean a 2-day school week for students that year, next year. Typically, that Wednesday has always been a school day for both staff and students. So in considering that, what I offered up in conversation with the bargaining unit, the SCA, was consideration for a floating workday to occur after July 1st, but prior to the start of school, for staff to be able to complete all of the mandated trainings required by the state of Connecticut. And obviously, we have mechanisms to track their completion and attestations of completion, and they are in agreement with that. So with this board's approval of that amendment, I will have that reflect to be a school day, and I will execute the MOU with the SCA for the floating workday to occur after July 1. And so that would allow us still to maintain a 4-day break in February, the Saturday, Sunday, and then the Monday, Tuesday for all staff and students. Another advantage I see of a little break in February is it does allow us to disperse at a time of illness and do some deep cleaning of high-touch surfaces throughout the building and give people a little opportunity to step away. So I am in favor of that recommendation as well. So the calendar as presented to you with that one amendment on the 19th.
Okay. Any questions for the administration? I just want to make note that administrators that are sitting in the back are all shaking their heads when they hear about airing the buildings out in February, so,
Do
okay.
we need a motion on this?
Yes, we are going to need a motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the draft policy, no, I screwed this up? Of course I screwed it up. That we approve the calendar as presented.
The revised calendar, the revised,
The revised calendar as presented.
As amended, she said, as amended.
Second.
as amended, okay. Second, okay. Whoever seconds. All right.
Okay.
Any, oh,
Sorry.
it was either Dave or Joe.
Doesn't matter.
They're both quick. Okay. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Medancy. Next, we have second reading, proposed, okay, policy.
For policy.
Right.
Yep. So move that the board
You want this?
approve policy 5141.5, suicide prevention and intervention. It's a revised as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Move that the board approve policy 6161.1, equal access to instructional material. This is a new policy as presented by the administration.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Move that the board pass policy 9321, time, place, notification of meetings, revised policy as presented by the administration.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Brzezowski. Next item on the agenda is Board of Ed assumptions and priorities, our second reading.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion, but for the purpose of discussion, I'd like to talk about this also. But I move that the Board of Education adopt the budget assumptions and priorities for 2024 and 2025.
Second.
Okay. And discussion? You want-
Yeah, so-
I'll let you start.
I've been reading over the priorities and the assumptions for quite some time now. I personally, when we look over these priorities, I think there's several of the priorities that, quite frankly, should be expectations. I believe that they're assumptions, quite frankly, in how we operate and what we do as a board. My concern when you look at a list of 9 priorities is when you have 9 priorities, nothing is a priority. I think in business, we know this, we see this often, right? We try to prioritize too many different things and we're not able to focus with a strategy as a board. So just kind of one of the thoughts that is, as looking over this list of priorities, as we move into, the next year and what have you, that we look for an opportunity as a board to form a strategy around where we would like to invest looking forward. Your priorities can't change every year. I think, when we set these priorities, when you look at incremental funding, especially in tough budget cycles, I think it's important that we look at where do we want to make investment year over year over year. So just again, just kind of my notes as I was looking down these, just going down the list, the support funding for appropriate class sizes, it's an absolute expectation of this board. I don't think anybody up here has any opposition to that. Kind of coming down the list, if you go to continue to ensure emotional and physical safety, that's an absolute expectation of this board. Support funding for the prioritized joint capital plan with the Board of Education in the town of Southington. Obviously, we would expect that we're going to do that. Continue to pursue opportunities to share services. That's standard operating procedure. It's what we do. And continue to monitor and update security. Again, security is always going to be an expectation of the board. So, again, recognizing, I know in years past, it's been a while since we brought this in front of the board. I know in my first term, we never brought these forward. I know in prior terms, I guess this was part of the budget process, and I do appreciate that, and I think it's very smart, and it's a good way for us to operate and do business. But again, I would ask as we move forward, that we look at what we have a very clear vision. I believe this board has a very clear vision for the district. I think so too does the administration. But what's our mission to get there, and what's our overall strategy? What's our roadmap? So that's just something I would ask that the entire board continue to think about and look at as we move through this budget cycle, but especially as we do our planning for long term.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if I could parlay off of what Mr. Williams is saying and just flesh it out, I guess, a little more for purposes of board discussion and how we conduct ourselves and our business for the district. I think we do have not only does our district have a clear vision, but everybody in any school, anywhere within this town, knows our vision. We're very proud of it. It was a collective, collaborative effort, and we use it and we market it, and we hold our superintendent and the administration across all our schools to the quality of student that we produce as a district, to ensure, again, that they're college and career ready. With that said, even though that vision is established and is in play, we don't necessarily have a clear mission to how do we get there or how do we achieve that. And I think all of us on the board have our own thoughts, right? And until and unless we come together and discuss those reasons and missions on why we serve the community that we serve, I think we're doing a disjustice to ourselves in our time and our efforts and our expertise, but also to the board and the community, and the students and staff that we support 100%. So I think when I say mission statement, it truly is a roadmap to how we get to deliver upon our vision as a Southington school system. And so that roadmap is to how do we get our students to attain the knowledge and skills to be college and career ready. And I think, in just listening to each of our board members, again, during my first term, and now going into a new term with this board, just some things I've wrote down in prior meetings and having discussions. Mr. Whitehead, one of his big missions, student mental health. Mr. Williams, junior ROTC. Ms. Carmody, professional development, teaching salaries. Mr. Oshana, school safety security. Mr. Bashevsky, educational opportunity and programming. Myself, diverse development experiences, raising the profile of the school district through higher student scoring on state standardized tests. We all have something that we believe in and we attach ourselves to. And I think that, and again, I'll look to our chair to kind of bring this together for us, but I think we all have something to contribute, and there's a reason why we're sitting on this board. I have a lot more to say, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Is anyone else? Mr.
Yeah.
Oshana?
Yeah, just so to add on a little bit, so we do have a mission statement, we do have a vision of a graduate, but I do think you're right. Maybe putting some of this stuff together is going to be important, and I think the importance of assumptions and priorities, right, you have too many priorities, you start getting nothing done. But I think the other side of it, as you also said, is you set your priorities and it sets your vision going forward. Your priorities don't change. At least they shouldn't change until they knock off, until you complete your particular items. But one of the things that this does is, you're right, every member of this board is here for a reason. We're here to educate, to advance the educational system in the town of Southington. That's what we do. But by putting these things out there, we get them out there to the community members, to the town council, to the Board of Finance. And then as the budget comes out, and as we start talking through the budget and explaining why these things are out there, why we're asking for some additional, headcount information, and why you've put these things in that you got in from the administrators over last year and the year before and the like, and into this year, this explains why. this explains what we're trying to do going forward, that it is not, you had mentioned, Mrs. Carmody, that through the CNI meeting, this is a comprehensive high school.
Right, it should be.
Terry and I were talking the other day about, you see all these advertisements on TV about this school and that school. Why aren't we advertising? Well, we don't have the ability to advertise, first of all, but we don't need to. We have all that stuff. We provide things that our students should be, we provide that education for our students, and these priorities show what we're trying to do. I think from my perspective, what we need to do is once this budget gets out, and we talked about this at the last meeting, we all need to be out there behind you, saying, as you go out there and present this budget to the community, we need to say why we are in support of it and why we are in support of putting out this type of request for the biggest budget in town. It's a lot of money. We have to decide whether or not education is a priority for the town of Stellington. I think everybody on this board feels education is a priority for the town of Stellington, and I think the members of the community think so. But we have to explain why, what we're doing, and why we think what we're doing is important. And that's why I think these priorities are critical to the success of the budget and the success of the education of our students in town.
But I also think that we need to not only look for this year, we need to look to the future. We all need to be on the same page as, why are we doing what we're doing? What is our vision this year, 5 years, 10 years? What is the vision of the Board of Education? And I had talked to Mr. Medancy about a board retreat where we could codify, or why are we here and why are we doing it? And how do we get the community to understand what it is we want to do? So, Mr. Medancy, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I
But
think
before
this.
you do, can I say,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
where priorities come in, right?
Yeah.
Because, Sean, you did great. I mean, you listed a lot of priorities, right?
Yeah.
And where people's perspectives are. And they're all right. They're all very, very important. So it's a matter of then
Yes.
stacking and racking. right?
Exactly.
What do we need to do?
Collectively.
Yes.
We may not be able to do all those priorities in 1 year.
No.
But
if
down
they
the
are
road,
part of
yeah.
the vision and the future of this district.
Yes.
Getting them out there
Exactly.
and continuing to hammer home why.
The
right?
why.
And they shouldn't drop off. They should stay there, and you should continue to understand why. Okay, so we knock this one off, move on to the next one. That doesn't mean, since you got it accomplished, it goes away. No, it still has to be
Yeah.
there, and you still have to focus on that priority. But now what's next, and what's next, and what's next? So racking and stacking is gonna be really critical.
So for me, my intention of bringing this forward, part of it just happened, which was wonderful, the conversation. But it wasn't just a vote, right, cursory. I think people are conscious of now on this board. I think the next layer to this, in terms of systemizing it, is part of my budget presentation Tuesday night will incorporate requests for personnel that speak to some of these priorities.
Right.
And I'll give you a very simple example. The continued commitment to the district's vision of a graduate and the 21st century skills identified through our community engagement process, including funding for a strong professional development initiative. When we talk about that district's vision of a graduate, the administration has done, and staff, teachers, tremendous work at developing pathways, shifting their pedagogy to align with block schedules, and developing courses that are a lot more innovative than would have been traditionally offered. And yet we have several students being sent to study halls because we can't fill course requests.
Exactly.
So for me, if this is a priority of the vision of a graduate, there's a request for personnel attached to the high school to my budget, because you can't be innovative with students sitting in study halls. Right?
Exactly.
It just simply can't happen. So, and we have tried over the years, as you know, we've literally got to the point that we've done things where we rotate electives. We don't offer them every year. We have audited courses that are no longer, having course requests, high course requests associated with them and no longer offering them. Like, we're not at a place that we've been staying status quo. During my time from assistant superintendent to now superintendent, it's been 10 years, I've seen this shift to the point that in my next update with you, I will be sharing with you the recently completed program of studies, the handbook at the high school that's going to be going out to students shortly. It's tremendous. You would put it up against any comprehensive high school in the state. Now we have to be able to deliver on the courses that are in that book that we're offering to students, and so that's an example of how I can see the alignment of the priorities to a proposed budget. So that's one piece of it. The second piece of it goes back to my first year as superintendent. where I had put on the cover page of my goals that I really felt coming out of COVID, for me being new, and at the time, a fairly new board, for the most part, would be a good time to engage in a strategic planning process where we could dedicate a lot of time together to identify these priorities and memorialize them so that they stay, so that it doesn't become a yearly flavor du jour, right? And that we are at a place that we work towards executing, adopted and approved, priorities within a strategic plan, and yet at the same time, engage the community in that conversation, because I think Mr. Carson spoke to it, and we got to raise awareness, and we got to have the community be aware, and so that's one way to do that, by engaging your community stakeholders in the process, bringing it forward to all other, elected boards, letting them see, where the priorities are, so that there are no surprises for them in future and upcoming budgets. So I welcome the opportunity to work with all of you at an opportunity and engage in some retreat work and some strategic planning.
Okay. So we have a motion. Yeah, Mr. Darrenowski.
I like the idea that you had brought up about having a retreat. We used to have a retreat every year.
Yeah, we did.
Up until around 6 or 7 years ago. And they were off-site, very informal. You could
With
wear your
breakfast.
Sweats.
With breakfast.
For breakfast.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I cut that from the budget. There's no breakfast. You can bring your own, though.
So did I.
It's a priority.
But the outcome of all of those retreats were very positive. I don't know of
Extremely.
anyone that we ever had
No,
that,
they were
that
wonderful.
we said, well, this was a total waste of time.
Yeah.
But we were able to focus. We had an outline that we put together. We had the superintendent at the time put the outline together, take the notes, edited them.
Well,
Okay,
Yeah, no.
let's be honest. We try very hard as a board. This board does a great job with it to run very efficient business meetings. So this is not the forum to spend large amounts of time like with retreat,
Yeah.
strategic planning level work.
Yeah.
This is a business meeting. So, and fairness to everybody here who's volunteering the time, we run efficient meetings. So to your point, a block of time would be absolutely
I think
beneficial.
we had
and
3
that's-
hours. This is what I think we
We
allotted.
could do whatever, yeah, I mean,
9 to
we could,
12.
9 to 12.
9 to
yeah,
12
we
is
could
what-
do something we could do something along those lines. All right, how about we get through budget season first,
Correct.
and then we look
And
at
don't expect me to cook, all right?
cookies. You need to make cookies. Because they will eat them. All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Yep.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Okay.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. All right, review and discussion of administrative requests.
So, this is really no action needed tonight. It's just an agenda item that's open for discussion. And the purpose of this being on the agenda really is a follow-up opportunity for board members. If there were any questions, thoughts, suggestions that they wanted to lean into relative to the request for personnel, it just provides me a little bit of direction relative to my thought process and finalization of my budget leading up to Tuesday evening. I've presented you the packets, our last conversation, we had administrator present, there was a request to have, some of the rationale justification documents shared, and when we were able to provide that, and so I entertain any questions or suggestions or comments that any board members may have relative to the personnel requests within, and if not, I will move forward with my budget.
Okay. Anything? Okay.
Anything?
Doesn't sound like it.
Just
Oh.
a comment.
Sure.
Again, being on the board, relatively newer member, that was a great, again, we never get to see that aspect of your budgetary making. So it was just a good opportunity to sort of see like, okay, again, transparency is key, right? I know that's not on the priority list, but I feel like it should be. As far as when we're proposing $100 million+ budget, transparency is always key. And to have administrators, have the administration in our district to be coming forward, hey, it's not because I want it, these are the reasons. I think it speaks much more loudly than, again, having you be the only one to present the finalized, okay, this is where we are, and, a little bit more of the, how are we getting there? So thank you for that, Steve.
Sure.
Okay. Good? Okay. New business. We have the first readings for at the high school, human rights course curriculum, industry internship proposal, the color guard course proposal. My personal one, the course proposal for the School of Rock. Yes. Excuse me, Mrs. Carmody? So if you have any questions regarding any of those curriculums, Mr. Williams is available to answer all questions, as is the administration. Okay, next on the agenda is the resolution for the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and the Town of Southington. Mr. Medancy.
Sure, this is more of a formality. This board would remember that a couple years ago, we made a similar resolution. There's no cost to the Board of Education. It's simply as we serve as the fiscal agent for this. And so it was a request by Megan Albanese to extend one of her part-time members to a full-time member, and all costs incurred would be covered by the federal grant that they receive. And so they just need for the DMAS grant application that they receive to fund it, formal board approval reflected on an agenda.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Move
Mr.
to-
Williams?
Yep, move to approve the DMOS resolution as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so moved. The appointment of the NIPSU Negotiating Committee. It's that time of year, folks. So I'm going to, hi, Mrs. Carmody.
Don't talk to me, Clark. What is this for, Mrs. Clark?
This is for food service
Secretarial.
and secretarial.
And is Matt,
No, no, he's not. Don't make a face. When does the negotiation, do we know when the negotiations start? Do we have a date?
Our first, usually, which is just the exchange of ground rules, is late February at this point.
Late February, okay. So it's late February in the afternoon,
what are you looking at me for?
because my head's turned that way, that's all.
You're the only one that has the afternoons off.
Oh, geez, thank you so much.
Okay.
Well,
So-
if you're stuck, Colleen, I guess I have to do it.
I will be looking for volunteers, so I will be sending something out.
Well, if you get
Volunteers
volunteers,
or
let me know.
Volunteer, voluntold, yeah, tomato,
So they're
tomato.
going to be afternoon meetings.
Usually that's when we have the
You're
afternoon.
looking for a volunteer from a volunteer committee and a volunteer board.
So it could be a voluntold member of a volunteer committee, is what you're saying, Mr.
That was my next thing.
Thank you, Mr. Darrenowski.
We typically do those meetings late afternoon
Yeah.
because both the representatives for the secretaries
day
are
of the week.
main offices and food service running our
Yeah,
cafeterias.
and we haven't set that up yet, what day of the week it's going to be, because you're not available on Mondays.
Mondays I'm tough, but February is not a big deal. I'm
Okay.
off every Friday.
Okay,
We've only set the initial date at this point, so the
Okay.
dates we can certainly
okay,
arrange them.
all right. Okay, so you'll be hearing from me
I
about
will
that.
wait for your volunteers.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, I will be looking for, a motion regarding sabbatical leaves.
Move that the Board of Ed approves the sabbatical leave of absence of Betty Blackwell as recommended by the administration.
Second?
Thank you, Beck. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Second motion, move that the Board of Ed approves the sabbatical leave of absence of Kara Seville as recommended by the administration.
Second?
They're quick.
You can take your pick.
You have a,
Yeah.
any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Mr. Oshana?
Move that the Board of Education expels student number 2022-2023-19 as identified by the administration.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public communications. If anyone in the public would like to comment, come to the podium and sign your name and address. It's open for the public. You're the
brief
public.
word.
Okay,
won't take
just
long.
your name and address, please, sir.
Ryan Ogren, 599 Mount Vernon Road. Great to be back. I just wanted to come and say hi to everyone as I'm back on winter break and say that I enjoyed my first semester and sad to not be there, but it's good to move on. And I enjoyed my semester, and academically I did well, and I definitely felt prepared for my courses and for the extracurricular activities and everything like that. I ran for class president for the class of 2027 and won that. So continuing the student government aspect of that. So I enjoyed it, and I'm glad to be back, and I'll be back in May.
Yay.
So
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Walling, would you like to say a few words? Yeah, he's all right. He's,
Yeah.
oh, all right.
Wait, there was an extra credit to get the 4.1? Really?
So,
None of the classes were weighted.
Just
No.
as a matter for you, as for the board, February 21st at 1 o'clock is the initial session for negotiations.
At 1 o'clock?
That's what I have on the calendar. So the attorneys
1
got
o'clock,
together.
I have to take a nap at 1 o'clock, Steve.
Gonna have to take it earlier.
I'm sorry.
At 1 o'clock? Okay.
Joe, don't look at me like that.
Staring.
Okay.
Staring.
Anyone else from the public care to speak? Hearing, seeing no one? Mr. Darrenowski?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Well, I don't know, they're too quick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.